This week I wanted to talk about why process improvement fails. And it's probably not going to be the typical type of minutia types of suggestions people have. Matter of fact, I can guarantee you it isn't. Um, but over the 30 plus years I've been working on improvement and in organizations and transformations, whatever you want to call them, I've definitely looked at over 1,000 different process improvement efforts and in multiple industries. I mean, I've worked with so many different companies in so many different industries, but I know that I've done over 200 reviews of process improvement efforts. A deeper dive, so to speak. So about 20% or so of the over 1,000 process improvement efforts that I've looked at. But process improvement projects, which is more the word that people would use. Some people wrongly say that they're transformation projects, and I'll explain that as we go. It should become self-evident as to why they're really not transformation types of projects. But typically the process improvement efforts start because management is under the gun to show some type of cost savings. That's not all of them. Sometimes it's just, we see something and it, we believe it can be done better. But let's face it, nowadays, especially if it doesn't have some bottom line impact, the project's probably never going to see the light of day. So, what this does when you're looking at cost savings is it often results in wasteful efforts. And, I know Elon Musk has been getting credit for it, but it was Drucker that originally talked about, no action is more worthless than to improve something that shouldn't be done at all. And a lot of times, I'm not going to say it's 50%, but it's certainly in the 10 to 30% vicinity where process improvement things are, they're looking at something that, if we changed the system, that you wouldn't even have to do that particular activity. And so these efforts then become something where they have achievable outcomes, because not all the time, but especially in larger companies, you have improvement efforts involve bonuses and promotions and things of that sort. And so you want to do something that is going to be noticed and you be able to show the savings. And I've never seen any of these 1,000 projects didn't show some type of savings in it, even though they may be savings in one area and increase costs in a different area. And so whenever you're doing process improvement efforts that are just taking a piece of a whole, then you are doing basically what's called suboptimization. You're making one area better, but not another. So, an example of that would be, for instance, the sales team goes out and they get this, the killer sales system put together, that they have out there. And meanwhile, the operational people or the people who have to deliver can't take on anymore. So even if you increase sales, there's an inability for the operational or delivery area to be able to make good on it. And so, that's just a small example, but you can use your imagination. And I don't think you have to use your imagination. Most people have seen this before in their organizations, to come up with examples. And so that's what you wind up with is this sub-optimization. You're taking a piece of a large, a bigger part of the system and trying to make it a lot better without consideration for how this might impact the entire system. And so even though they show cost savings in that small area, there many times are big costs associated with that small savings, or and not only savings because I use sales as an example, but also increased revenue types of activities. But this gets to really what this whole effort of mine, in the effective executive, process improvement is about being very efficient. But making systemic improvement makes you effective. Are you doing the right things? Are you working on the right things in your organization? Or are you just doing some little piece out of your organization? And, if what needs to precede any process improvement effort is a deep understanding of how your system is put together, how it works, what's the impact of doing something in this area versus this area. And it's one of the reasons why, business transformation is such a natural extension of the activities that I do in working with executives, is that your transformation usually will eliminate a lot of the process improvement or the little pieces of areas that you're working on. You're like, if we redesign how we do this work, we don't even do that thing over there that you're looking to do process improvement on. And so it's always better to start with the broader system, at least from an understanding standpoint. But if you are bold enough and you study your organization, customer in, as a system, then you will more than likely get rid of the functional design that you have. Just, sales is its own island, operations its own island, IT its own island, and all the efforts, because the management of those areas kick off these process improvement areas. And yet there's such a lack of understanding of how the system is put together. And so, going back to this theme of the effective executive, how do you become effective? You become a systemic thinker. As I use the word synthetic thinker, that you're able to understand how the system is put together and not just how the pieces perform. I hit my goal in IT, but our revenues are down 40%. But I did my job, so I should get my bonus. And so you wind up with the sub-optimization of everybody trying to do better in their particular area. There was W. Edwards Deming that basically said, you can't have a whole lot of people that are prima donnas in an orchestra, to make a pleasing sound to the audience. And that's what you wind up with a lot of times with these siloed areas all working on improving and making their piece better. Meanwhile, the entire whole suffers. So anyway, that's what I wanted to cover this week. I hadn't really hit upon this in a while, but it's the theme really of the entire purpose of my podcast and my vlog, and the episodes that I have there. So that's what I wanted to cover this week. And remember, there is always a better way.